All right. Well, thank you for attending the webinar. Today, what we're going to discuss is why the importance of a CAD admin and why you need to have a CAD admin, and talk about the roles of the CAD admin as well. So, for today's agenda, what we're going to first start talking about is what is a CAD admin, what responsibilities do they have, who are the typical, and then we'll tie into why it's necessary to have a CAD administrator. So why it's necessary to have somebody handling your CAD data, who could be your CAD administrator, so what qualities makes a person a great CAD administrator, and how DesignPoint can help that particular person become a better CAD administrator from there. So let's talk about the CAD admin's responsibilities. So one of the responsibilities that the CAD administrator has is to handle your CAD hardware and the software associated with your CAD files. As we know, CAD systems dependent on graphics cards. CAD systems also have quite a bit, or quite large as far as the installation size, because of the complexity of all the great things that it's doing, right? So we're creating 3D models, and that's going to take up some space on our hard drive, and then as well as it's going to take up some resources with our GPU and CPU. So managing the CAD hardware and software, as well as managing the installations, upgrades, and uninstallations, is a responsibility that a CAD admin is involved in, making sure that users are getting the right things installed and connecting the dots from there. The next thing is building and maintaining CAD standards or CAD troubleshooting. So this could be creating templates. This could be managing the folder structure, making sure there's not duplicate parts coming in, making sure your library components are easy to find, working with items or setting up a toolbox. All these things are setting up your CAD standards is something that's typically done by the CAD admin, and ensuring that all these things work makes the CAD design process much more smoother. From there, we also have CAD troubleshooting. So typically your CAD admin's the guy that you go to in case you have problems with, okay, this file reference isn't working, I'm having these problems with these errors, I'm running into this issue here. So that's typically something that is also a responsibility that the CAD admin holds and helps out with, and will work with us as well at DesignPoint to make sure that that person's getting supported and the issues are going away. The next item is drawing review, so making sure that the drawings that we give out to the shop floor are coherent and adhere to the standards in order for them to build the parts that we need for them to create. And then the CAD admin would also be the one that recommends best practices and make sure that we're following the CAD standards and make sure that we're moving forward and we're avoiding issues with running into problems with our CAD tools. So again, going back to why we need a CAD admin, one of the points that we mentioned was installations and upgrades. So everybody should be on the same version of SolidWorks, right? So, and the reason for why everybody should be on the same version of SolidWorks is because if you're on SolidWorks 2020, but your colleague is on 2019, they're not going to be able to access your files because SolidWorks 2020 files can't be open in 2019 so that they can be modified and changed. They could be viewed, but they can't be opened. So that's why it's recommended to make sure that everyone is using the same version of SolidWorks. So what that typically means is you have upgrades and installations that typically happen all around the same time. So because of that, there's some decisions that need to be made about the installations prior. For example, when to upgrade, the correct amount of licenses, whether to use a individual installation versus an admin image, right? Who gets the upgrade is what we mentioned. What's the perfect time for within our development process? What's the right time? Do we do an uninstall versus reinstall, or do we just do a regular upgrade? What issues can we expect to happen afterwards? Is our driver supported for the next version? What are people's availabilities? All kind of questions that kind of, and in a sense, doing the installation can be a mini project in itself. So because of that, having the CAD admin handle those is typically something that that's put onto their responsibility, right? And if you kind of just leave it up to the users to do whatever they want, right? So their settings might not be right. They might run into more issues and problems, right? So the CAD admin is going to help us make sure that the installations and upgrades are more of a success. All right, so another reason why it's necessary to have a CAD admin is because of your CAD standards, right? So I'm going to ask a few questions here, and if you actually will, you can go ahead and take a look at these list of questions, right? Are your drawings, bombs, and templates set up? So are your templates set up properly for those items, as well as sheet metal templates for gauge tables, weldment profiles? Is the design process understood and defined? Are you having problems with duplicate files, part number duplication? Are you using the part numbers? Do you have libraries of parts that you can reuse? Any problems with your file locations, your folder structures, problems with hardware that you have utilizing SolidWorks? Are you able to avoid making numerous revision problems or clerical errors in your bombs or in your templates for your drawings? So really the CAD standards is meant to make sure, one, are you abiding by the rules that your company has set forth, and is your design process as automated as it can be, right? So that's where setting up these type of templates will come in handy, as well as one, making sure that we're utilizing these templates as well. So the CAD admin is really in charge of making sure that we're abiding by the standards. So if you see a picture in the top right corner, they're basically the patrol that makes sure that we're following the rules in regards to our company's practices, specifically towards our CAD data. So without a CAD admin, everybody's probably doing whatever they want, right? Everybody's going in different directions. And so what the CAD admin can do is help the users get back on track and help them, basically get back on track and follow the rest of the group in regards to following their CAD standards. And the last thing I want to touch up on why needing a CAD admin is they're also a good resource for when you run into problems with troubleshooting CAD data. Now keep in mind, DesignPoint can help out with a lot of the issues that you run into, but typically what ends up happening is the CAD administrators just reach out to us, right? Because we work well together, and we were able to get and resolve some of these issues together. So it's issues like file referencing, drawing annotation problems, some of these problems as far as troubleshooting. Obviously we're going to be able to help you too as well, but you probably, what I've seen most companies do is they go to that one guy, that one person that knows how to, who's really savvy, and they say, hey, have you ran into this before? And they're just like, yeah, it's just this, and that, right? So typically that particular individual is like their first line of defense before they reach out to us. And if the guy can't help, then they'll reach out to us. And I've seen that happen in quite a few different companies. And that person is probably your CAD admin right now, right? So the idea, or one of the reasons why you need a CAD admin is because you already have a CAD admin. You just never gave them that title, right? So think about it. Think about the person that you go to the most for questions or problems with your CAD data, right? You probably jump to that person and say, hey, how do we do this, or how does this set up? It could be a manager, it could be a colleague. It's somebody that's really savvy and understands how to work with the CAD administration and the CAD tools. And so you technically already have a CAD admin. It may not just be one person, right? It could be distributed amongst multiple people. It could be that your IT handles the installation upgrades. It could be that your managers might handle the CAD standards and the templates, and then you have another user who's really good with the CAD troubleshooting. So it might not just be one person that's your particular CAD admin, but the responsibilities and roles of a CAD administrator are in some ways being taken on within your company. So your CAD admin would, and I wanted to also highlight some of the personality traits that would come into play with CAD Admin, right? So they've got some experience with SolidWorks, not asking them to be an expert, right, by any means, but they at least know and familiar with SolidWorks, able to talk the lingo, able to discuss the language in regards to how to work within there, understands the file references, understands mates, understands different drawings and how they're all connected in that sense. Has an ability to work with either the IT department and DesignPoint on installations, as well as the IT department and DesignPoint on basically just troubleshooting anything. I put tech savvy, but they gotta at least know how to use a computer, and they're comfortable in working inside, working with a computer, right? It's not foreign to them. So that's typically, specifically for SolidWorks 3D CAD, that's typically someone that would handle that CAD admin role. And there's some other things, right? And like I said, it typically the person who would be your CAD admin is someone that's already the unofficial resource that you're using for your CAD admin questions. So these are the qualities and traits that can help with the CAD admin. Not everybody is, inherently going to have all these traits, and people don't come out of nowhere just having these traits, right? Some of these are skills that can be built and utilized to grow, right? So this ties into kind of how DesignPoint can help with growing these skills, and how SolidWorks already helps with growing these skills. So SolidWorks uses tools. There are tools within SolidWorks that are really helpful for a CAD administrator, right? Such as Design Checker, such as utilizing admin images and property tab builder, toolbox, configuration publisher, task scheduler. So the copy settings wizards. These are examples of things that we can do as far as deploying SolidWorks to our users and optimizing our users' processes through SolidWorks. These are things that are really helpful tools for the CAD administrators. And unfortunately, these items are not covered in any training course per se. It's either you've reached out to us and we've talked about these and brought these items to you, or you've learned from your extensive knowledge of going to user groups or other items like that about these items. But these items are not necessarily are underutilized, but they're super helpful for a lot of the items on this list. Or not, to my knowledge, or in my opinion, they're underutilized, but I'm sure that a lot of companies are using Toolbox and admin images and stuff like that. But I think it should be more than what are the people that are using it now, right? So because of all these tools, what DesignPoint has decided to do is we wanted to help customers expand their knowledge in regards to these tools. And so that's why we're deciding to offer the CAD admin training course. And I think I'm not sure when dates we'll start be putting on the calendar for this, but this is something that we're developing now and something I wanted to reach out in regards to. So we're planning on developing a CAD admin training course it's a 2-day course that discusses these different topics, right? Installations, technical support and troubleshooting, templates and toolbox, file management, CAD modeling practices, standards, and best practices. And another areas that DesignPoint can also help too, as far as maintaining the processes and maintaining our CAD knowledge, is one's through engineering assessments. So with an engineering assessment, what we'll do is we'll be either on-site or virtual. We've definitely done a lot more virtual now recently, but with the engineering assessments, basically we're just assessing your engineering team, talking to them, seeing what their daily problems are that they're going through, and then we're developing solutions on how we can improve their processes in order to best help them with their CAD system implementations. And another thing we could do is a skill gap assessment. Basically, helps us understand your CAD knowledge and your current team's SolidWorks skills. So these are basically a test that we can utilize to understand where your team's CAD knowledge is now, to further help them get to the next level. So these are just some recommendations or some tools that we can utilize in order to help you guys in regards to helping your CAD admins be better CAD admins. And of course, through our support team as well, we're always here to help and discuss any questions or issues that come up in regards to how to best implement one item versus another. So that's all I have for today. Does anybody have any questions at all? If you can add them to the chat, or there's a questions box available, and go to webinar, and we're, I'll hang back for a little bit to answer any questions or any comments like that.